It is a common human experience to view pain as a destructive force, a sign that something within us is broken. The conventional response is to run from it, to see it as a fire to be extinguished. However, a different perspective exists, one uncovered by individuals who have navigated profound suffering. They have found what can be described as a form of psychological alchemy, a structured process that transforms suffering into strength. This is not to be confused with simple positive thinking. It is a fundamental reframing, based on the understanding that the very experience that feels destructive may, in fact, be preparative. In this analysis, we will examine the blueprint for this transformation. The purpose is to demonstrate that pain does not have to be a terminal event. It can be the foundational element that makes you powerful. A common belief is that moments of intense pain, heartbreak, failure, or loss represent a final chapter. But what if this perception is inverted? What if the moment of impact is, in fact, a point of origin? Pain is not an end state. It is potential energy awaiting conversion. For years, a prevailing narrative has suggested that a good life is one devoid of suffering. This has conditioned us to fear the very process that can be instrumental in our development. We have learned to interpret struggle as a punishment rather than a preparation. Yet, many of the most resilient figures in history did not succeed in spite of their pain. They appear to have succeeded because of it. The objective here is to deconstruct this fear and understand the principles of this psychological process. Before transformation is possible, one must first identify the base material. Pain is a visceral, unavoidable reality. It is not an abstraction. The immediate human instinct is often one of avoidance, manifesting in various forms of distraction or suppression. We engage in behaviors designed to numb or ignore the feeling, operating under the belief that an ignored wound will heal on its own. However, psychological inquiry suggests that suppression does not lead to resolution. The pain that is not confronted does not vanish. It becomes embedded in the subconscious. From there, it can influence future actions and choices, operating from a place that is not immediately visible. Psychology offers a critical distinction between pain and suffering. Pain is the immediate, unavoidable neurological and emotional signal that something is wrong. Suffering, by contrast, is the narrative constructed around that initial pain. The pain of failure is a temporary event. The suffering is the story that says, "I am not capable." This suffering can manifest in two primary forms. There is acute suffering, which is intense, arriving suddenly in response to an event like a loss or betrayal. It demands immediate attention. Then there is chronic suffering, which is often more subtle. It can stem from unresolved trauma, prolonged difficulties, or systemic hardship. It is a persistent, low-grade state of despair that, over time, can erode one's sense of self and alter their perception of the world. The outcome of avoiding either form is the same: a life lived with a degree of detachment. In the attempt to build walls to avoid pain, one can inadvertently create a prison, forfeiting the potential for joy and connection in the process. This state is the common metal, the lead of a life defined by the avoidance of suffering. It is heavy and dull, but it is not a permanent state. This is where the paradigm shifts. The alchemists of history sought to transmute lead into gold. The principle of psychological alchemy is analogous. It is the process of transforming the lead of suffering into the gold of strength, wisdom, and purpose. This does not involve a denial of pain. It is a radical recontextualization of it. The central reframe is to view the struggle not as a random punishment, but as the exact experience required for the next stage of development. The foundational concept for this is what psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun identified in the 1990s as post-traumatic growth, or PTG. For decades, the focus of study was on post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and the ways trauma can damage an individual. But Tedeschi and Calhoun observed that a significant number of survivors of immense tragedy did not merely return to their previous baseline. They bounced forward. They reported a greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, a new sense of personal strength, and a discovery of purpose that was absent before. While the psychological effects of PTG are well documented, neuroimaging studies continue to explore potential corresponding changes in brain activity, particularly in regions associated with meaning-making and empathy. The work of Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps of World War II, provides a clear illustration of this principle. In the camps, he lost his parents, his brother, and his wife, who was presumed dead at the time of his writing and died shortly after liberation. These experiences served as a harrowing testing ground for his theory of logotherapy, a framework he had begun developing in the 1920s and 30s. His observations in the camps did not found the theory, but they did refine it and provide undeniable evidence for its core tenets. Frankl observed that the crucial difference between those who survived and those who did not was often the presence of meaning, a why to live for. He himself found meaning by imagining himself lecturing after the war, using his suffering as the basis for teaching the world about human resilience. Frankl's core insight is the secret of alchemy. One cannot always control external events, but the freedom to choose one's attitude and to find meaning in any given set of circumstances always remains. In the space between stimulus and response lies this power. The alchemical secret is that pain is not a random event, but a signal. Suffering often arises from a discrepancy between what has happened and one's understanding of the world. The alchemical process is the act of rebuilding that worldview, not as it was, but stronger and more resilient than before, using the pain itself as the raw material. What, then, is the practical application of this principle? The process of transmutation can be understood as a sequence of 3 distinct stages. The first step is to cease resistance to the experience of pain. One cannot transform an element one refuses to acknowledge. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not a declaration of defeat. It is a statement of reality. This is occurring. This is painful, and I am willing to observe it. This is often the most difficult step, as the instinct is to avoid. But transformation begins only when the running stops. As long as one is actively resisting the pain, energy is consumed in the battle itself. Acceptance is the act of disengaging from that fight. Mindfulness-based strategies are highly effective here. They train an individual to observe their thoughts and feelings without judgment, as if watching leaves on a river. One does not need to jump into the river or stop its flow, but simply notice each thought as it passes. This practice of non-judgmental observation reduces the power of the emotion. It is an application of self-compassion, replacing an internal critical voice with a supportive one. The acknowledgement that emotional pain is a valid response is a prerequisite for healing. Once the pain is accepted, the search for the philosopher's stone can begin. In this context, the catalyst for transformation is meaning. This stage is marked by a pivotal shift in questioning. The inquiry moves from the disempowering question, "Why is this happening to me?" to the constructive question, "What can this teach me?" The former leads to a sense of victimhood, while the latter presupposes that even difficult events contain a lesson or a purpose. Viktor Frankl proposed that humans are driven by a will to meaning. He identified 3 primary pathways to its discovery: by creating a work or doing a deed, channeling the experience into a productive or creative outlet, by experiencing something or encountering someone, finding meaning through love, connection, or a deeper appreciation for life itself, by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. When a situation cannot be changed, the freedom to choose one's response, with courage, dignity, or grace, remains. In this choice, a meaning can be found that transcends the suffering itself. This is a process of rewriting a narrative. The initial story of pain is often one of defeat. One has the capacity to challenge that narrative. A practical method for this is journaling. By writing down the event and then deliberately answering the question, what positive outcome was made possible by this experience? One can begin to identify the strengths and resilience that were forged. This is not about negating the pain, but about acknowledging it and the growth it enabled. Following the acceptance of pain and the discovery of meaning within it, the final stage occurs, the rebirth. This is the completion of the alchemical transformation, akin to the diamond formed under pressure. The individual who emerges is not merely healed, they are transformed. This gold manifests in several observable ways. Unshakable resilience. A deep confidence develops from the knowledge that one has faced extreme difficulty and endured. This creates a strength that is flexible and enduring. Profound empathy and compassion. Having navigated suffering, one gains an enhanced ability to recognize it in others. The experience becomes a tool for connection and for helping others navigate similar challenges. A clearer sense of purpose and priorities. Suffering acts as a clarifying agent. It tends to burn away the superficial, leaving a focused understanding of what is truly important: connection, contribution, and meaning. A deeper appreciation for life. Those who experience post-traumatic growth consistently report a heightened appreciation for life itself. Small joys are no longer taken for granted. Spiritual and existential growth. The process often forces an engagement with fundamental questions of existence, leading to the development of a new spiritual or philosophical framework that provides strength independent of external circumstances. This is the gold. It is not a life free from pain, but a life where pain has been integrated and given purpose. The realization is that one was not being broken, but broken open. This process is not easy, but it is the path to a more resilient existence. It begins with a single choice: to stop avoiding and start observing your pain. For those to whom this framework resonates, a practical first step is to simply acknowledge the pain. Write it down or speak it to a trusted person. Then, pose the transformative question: what is this trying to teach me? This channel continues to explore these concepts. Subscribing ensures access to ongoing analysis and tools for personal development. To be clear, no one would choose to suffer. But pain is an unavoidable component of the human condition. The operative question is not if you will experience it, but what you will do with it. Most will allow their pain to define their identity. But there is an alternative. You can choose to be the common metal, defined by the weight of your suffering, or you can choose to be the alchemist. You can operate from the belief that your pain is not a punishment, but a preparation. You can see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. You can accept the fire, find the meaning, and forge the gold. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by what you choose to build from it. The pain you feel today can be the raw material for the strength you will wield tomorrow. It is the material for your masterpiece. Become the alchemist of your own life.